Welcome to Forgotten Fronts, where we uncover the turning points of history that shaped our world. In this episode, we revisit September 11th, 2001, a day of tragedy, courage, and transformation. Stay with us as we trace the story of 9/11 and how it forever changed America and the world. In the years leading up to 2001, the United States stood as the world's unrivaled superpower. The Cold War had ended a decade earlier, and many believed a new age of peace and prosperity had begun. But far from America's borders, a radical Islamist movement was growing. Al-Qaeda, led by Osama bin Laden, had declared war on the United States. Bin Laden believed that America's presence in the Middle East, particularly its military bases in Saudi Arabia, was an insult to Islam. Throughout the 1990s, Al-Qaeda launched a series of deadly attacks. The bombings of U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania in 1998, and the attack on the USS Cole in 2000. The warnings were there, but few imagined that such a bold strike could happen on American soil. The morning of September 11th, just after 8 a.m. Eastern Time, 19 hijackers boarded 4 commercial flights. Each plane was chosen for its destination and fuel load, intended to maximize destruction. At 8:46 a.m., American Airlines Flight 11 slammed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center in New York City. At first, many believed it was a tragic accident, but the truth became clear only minutes later. At 9:03 a.m., United Airlines Flight 175 struck the South Tower in a massive fireball. Now the world knew America was under attack. The nightmare did not stop in New York. At 9:37 a.m., American Airlines Flight 77 crashed into the Pentagon, the very heart of the U.S. military command. The symbol of America's defense was burning, sending shockwaves across the nation. Then came United Airlines Flight 93, hijacked and headed toward Washington, D.C. It is believed the target was either the U.S. Capitol or the White House. But the passengers, aware of the earlier attacks through phone calls, refused to let it happen. They fought back against the hijackers, storming the cockpit. At 10:03 a.m., the plane crashed in a field near Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Everyone on board was killed, but their actions saved countless lives on the ground. Their bravery would be remembered as one of the first acts of resistance in the War on Terror. Meanwhile, in New York, smoke and fire consumed the Twin Towers. Thousands of people were trapped above the impact zones. Some called loved ones to say goodbye, others desperately searched for an escape. At 9:59 a.m., the South Tower collapsed. At 10:28 a.m., the North Tower followed. In just 102 minutes, 2 of the world's tallest buildings were reduced to rubble. The collapse filled Manhattan with a massive cloud of dust and debris, turning day into night. Nearly 3,000 people were killed, and more than 6,000 were injured. It was the deadliest day on American soil since Pearl Harbor in 1941. In the middle of destruction, acts of heroism shone through. Firefighters, police officers, and ordinary citizens risked their lives to save others. Many rushed into the towers after the plane struck, and many never returned. Emergency workers dug through ruins for survivors. Doctors and nurses prepared hospitals for casualties that never came, because so few made it out alive. Across the United States, every airport was shut down for the first time in history. Fighter jets patrolled the skies. Citizens lined up to donate blood, unsure of what was coming next. Millions around the world watched in horror as live television broadcast the scenes of destruction. The images of smoke, falling towers, and desperate rescues would never be forgotten. The attacks were not just an American tragedy, they were a global shockwave. From London to Tokyo, from Moscow to Islamabad, people gathered to mourn. Nations across the world lowered their flags, lit candles, and held vigils. For a brief moment, the world stood united in grief and solidarity. Even rivals of the United States condemned the attacks, recognizing that terrorism threatened all of humanity. But unity soon turned into war. Within weeks, the United States launched Operation Enduring Freedom, invading Afghanistan to overthrow the Taliban regime, which had sheltered al-Qaeda. 2 years later, in 2003, America led a controversial invasion of Iraq, citing weapons of mass destruction and links to terrorism. The decision divided the world and triggered years of conflict. What became known as the War on Terror stretched on for decades. It claimed hundreds of thousands of lives, displaced millions, and reshaped the Middle East. It also transformed America's role in the world, as its military and intelligence presence expanded across the globe. Air travel was never the same. Security checkpoints became stricter, intelligence networks expanded, and surveillance increased in many countries. Governments passed new anti-terrorism laws. Debates about freedom, privacy, and security grew louder, as citizens struggled with the balance between safety and liberty. For Americans, September 11th became a turning point, a moment when a sense of safety and innocence was shattered. For the world, it was a reminder that in an interconnected age, no nation was immune from terror. More than 2 decades later, the memory of September 11th endures. The 9/11 Memorial and Museum now stand where the Twin Towers once rose. 2 reflecting pools mark the footprints of the towers, inscribed with the names of every victim. Each year, on the anniversary, bells toll, moments of silence are observed, and the world remembers. Not only the horror of that day, but also the courage, unity, and resilience that followed. September 11th, 2001, a day of tragedy, a day of heroism, a day that changed America and the world forever. More than 2 decades later, the memory of September 11th endures. The 9/11 Memorial and Museum now stand where the Twin Towers once rose. 2 reflecting pools mark the footprints of the towers, inscribed with the names of every victim. Each year, on the anniversary, bells toll, moments of silence are observed, and the world remembers. Not only the horror of that day, but also the courage, unity, and resilience that followed. September 11th, 2001, a day of tragedy, a day of heroism, a day that changed America and the world forever. You've been watching Forgotten Fronts. The story of 9/11 reminds us how quickly the course of history can change and how deeply it can affect lives across the globe. If you found this documentary meaningful, please subscribe for more explorations of the battles, events, and moments that defined our past. Share your thoughts in the comments and let us know which historic events you'd like us to cover next. Until next time, thank you for watching and for keeping history alive with Forgotten Fronts.